Welcome to the Love the Star podcast. I'm Bobby Belt, Dallas Cowboys insider for 105 through the Fan in Dallas. Joined as always by former NFL scout Brian Broaddus. He is a Super Bowl winner. He is also the co-host of the G-Bag Nation, 2 to 7 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday on 105 through the Fan in Dallas. And he is the pre- and post-game co-host on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Brian Broaddus, how are you?
Doing excellent, Robert. How about yourself?
I'm great. Before we get going, this has become a little tradition of mine. And we do this. It's the draft, and so I'm going to hit you with it right now. Since the last time we spoke, it's been about a week. Favorite player you've seen so far in the last week? You got one? Stands out there? Like, man,
wow. That's a great question. You know, and you caught me off guard because I usually have all my notes and stuff in front of me.
Or just a name that you were like, man, I liked watching that guy play.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what. There's actually been several of them, and I appreciate you doing that. Hang on just a second here because I watched
I'll tell you what you look that up.
Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky.
Yeah,
is a cornerback. I don't know if you've seen Maxwell Hairston play.
I'm familiar with him. I have not watched him yet.
Yeah, I know we all, if in Cowboy Nation, probably have a phobia of Kentucky corners.
It's like Michigan defensive lineman.
Michigan defensive lineman. I think Dane Brugler tried to kind of talk us all off the ledge.
Well, I'll tell you what. While you get the note on that,
I'm going to say real
quick. You know the best player I saw this week? It's not even somebody who's draft eligible. It's that freshman edge rusher at South Carolina, Dylan Stewart. Holy crap!
Did you watch him play against? You're watching against Will Campbell, that kind of thing. Was that?
Yeah, I saw him in a couple different games where I was trying to watch.
Emory Jones.
Who's the edge rusher over there at South Carolina? I forgot his name. 5. The edge rusher over there, the skinny kid, whoever that is at South Carolina. I was trying to watch him. I got all caught up in Dylan Stewart, the edge rusher, who's a teenager who's just kicking people's asses. He'll be the number 1 pick here in 3 years, probably. But anyway, go ahead. Tell us about Maxwell Hairston.
No, I'll tell you what. With Hairston, interesting kid because he could play outside. He of course he's Kentucky's core. He looks like kind of a slightly built guy. But in reality, he's like 6'1", like 185, 88 pounds, something like that. He covers well. He's tough. I kind of envision – I'm trying to look for guys that potentially could be nickel prospects because I have a feeling you're going to lose Jordan Lewis. Jordan Lewis's film, and we'll see. Maybe Jordan Lewis, maybe they figure out ways to sign him back. I would love for that to be the case. But the thing with Hairston, I see a guy who has extreme toughness, the ability to laterally, to move, to adjust, to turn, to run, to bend, to all these things. Led the SEC in interceptions last year. He's always around the football. He's a ball hawk, as they always say. Got really good ball skills. I was watching his teammate Deonte Walker, the defensive tackle, and man, you talk about put myself in a blender there. I don't know. I want to really, really like that kid, but I'm conflicted because he's got some of those moments where he looks really, really good playing at the point of attack, and then other times where he's not very interested. You can watch the Georgia game and kind of see some stuff like that. Georgia will do that to you.
He's got skill, though. He's got traits.
He's got a lot of skills. And that's the thing that kind of stresses me out a little bit. Do I feel like does he have first-round talent? Yeah. Would I take him in the first round? Probably not. He's just so up and down. And we were talking with Dane Brugler last night, myself and Voch Lombardi, and Dane's like, listen, this guy plays a lot of snaps at Kentucky. You can see him get wore down and things like that. And hey, that makes sense. I'll give you one more guy too. Mike Green, edge at Marshall. Don't know if you've seen him.
So Green I've not watched yet, but
he's a transfer from Virginia.
It's so funny you bring Green up. He came up. I was showing. We were in San Francisco. I was talking with Nick Harris from DallasCowboys.com.
Yeah,
and we were talking about the way that we try to find sleeper players, that, but before we get any names. And I don't remember what the process was that we had gotten to, but we came across his name and we were like, oh, that's an interesting player. We should check on him later. And it's so funny because then I heard his name start coming around. I was like, oh man, we should have started on him early. I've not watched yet, but he was one that we had identified as like, oh, we got to watch him.
everybody tells me this Caleb Johnson, this running back, is somebody that I have to watch. And trust me, usually my date of starting is on December 1st. I actually got started on November 9th because of the way the season was kind of going for the Cowboys. So I'm up to 41 players already. I try and do 200. So I'm just going to keep going until we get to the draft. And no telling. I mean, my board, I am not putting 300 players on my board. Now I'll rank them for everybody. I'll stack them. But my board, man, if I have more than 150 players on that draft board, that's going to be a mess.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you one name really quickly of somebody who I watched this week, and I didn't love him, and I don't know if you've come across him yet. What did you think of Derek Harmon at Oregon?
Okay, yeah.
Harmon.
I tell you what, there's a couple of guys.
Worried.
There's a couple of guys, Harmon and Walter Nolan from Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is there's a couple positions where I think this draft is pretty deep, and Dane was even talking about it last night. Running back, defensive tackle. Now, we're trying to sort out some of the stuff with the offensive tackle group. What guys are going to play, they're playing tackle, or going to play guard? Will
arguably all three of the top tackles we're looking at, you could see teams saying they're guards.
Yeah.
All three of them.
I'll tell you, the best lineman I've seen, and the kid got hurt, was that Josh Simmons from Ohio State. That kid, right? That kid was on his way.
Declared today.
Well, he's also got a knee injury too. Dane was telling me a lot of these. I mean, my school LSU. He was saying that Campbell, the tackle, has already said he's coming out, but he's also kind of saying that maybe that some of the other kids like Nussmeier, and then also the tight end,
Mason Taylor.
Mason Taylor might come back, and then also too the offensive tackle Emory Jones might be coming back. Yeah. So keep an eye on those lists, because there's probably about 10 guys.
Jones got high spring and summer grades, I know, from teams, and I think that people didn't. There was some disappointment with his play this year, so I think it makes a lot of sense for him to go back.
There you go.
So real quick, let's touch on one more name. We're almost through a full segment time at this point, so we might as well touch on one more name, because the biggest name that declared this week, Luther Burden out of Missouri. He ended up declaring Luther Burden the third from Missouri. Brian, I don't know what you thought about
catch. Run after catch, huge.
It's very Debo-like. Like, I think when people look at him, it's very Debo Samuel type of skill set, freaky athlete. Again, a guy who high grades for a lot of people coming into this year of just like, man, this could be a big year for Luther Burden. I think he disappointed some folks with the way he played. He was a little banged up.
Yeah.
He didn't produce at the same rate that he did in 2023. But if you're looking for the Debo Samuel starter kit, the guy to take the ball and make moves in space, and physical, thickly built type of receiver who looks a little stocky almost at times, but is still a really incredible athlete. I think Luther Burden is a really high upside player. And if Dallas is picking at 13, that might be around an area where Burden's talked about by some people.
Don't be like going against at 13, because you're going to take that running back from Boise, Genty.
Ooh, you think the running back's going to be there at 13?
I you know what though, every time I feel like, maybe we did this with Bijan Robinson. Remember where it's like, well, if Dallas picks him at the end of the first round, we're going to all be, and that kid goes what?
8 or whatever it was. I think Genty goes top. Genty's going top 10, I think.
This is where kind of like I want to just kind of talk to Cowboy fans a little bit and I'm sure that a lot of folks listen to us on various platforms and listen to us on our shows. I kind of feel like, don't worry about winning games. When this team has been really good at drafting players, it's taken the best player on their board. Whether that's Zach Martin, whether that's CeeDee Lamb, whether that's Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
Wherever they've picked, the best player on their board has been pretty much a hit for them. So don't worry about it. If all of a sudden you're picking 14th in this thing, you're still in your window. You're still in your window of first-round grades. Sure. Would everybody love Travis Hunter? Absolutely. But, we were talking with Dane about Tet McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona.
I love McMillan.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a
you
smooth
mentioned Burton.
Player.
You mentioned Burton from Missouri. I mentioned McMillan. You're probably – Dane told us last night he's playing Travis Hunter at corner. Lach Lombardi's that way. I'll ask you, where are you playing Travis Hunter, Bobby Belt?
So I think when he gets into an NFL program and fills out a little bit, I think he can be Jalen Ramsey at corner. So okay. I'm going to play him at corner because I think he could be a Pro Bowl receiver.
Everybody's against me playing him. Well, I think
he can be a Pro Bowl receiver. It's just, to me, it's the question of, do you want to take Chris Godwin or do you want to take Travis Hunter? Which Godwin's a really good player.
I keep hearing you say that. I listen to your morning broadcast. You're always talking about Chris Godwin and this kid and all that.
You think that's a bad comp?
No, I'm interested when you guys go to the Combine for your show. I'm interested to see when you poll the scouts around the league that you get to bump into and see where they're going to play Travis Hunter. I'm interested where my gang of 7 is going to play him as well. I really am.
I think he'll want to play. But here's the good thing about Travis Hunter, though. If for some reason things aren't working out for him at a position the first 2 years, you can flip him. You could just see, all right, let's see if this side works. It at least gives you a couple. That's why I think he'll go number 1. I don't care who's up there picking. I think Travis Hunter goes number 1 because of that and that factor that exists for him.
Right, real quick, too, again, okay, we're just killing this. This is a draft segment right off.
We'll go right to the Cowboys right after
when you go to the Cincinnati Bengals. Have you seen the kid Reville from the East Carolina Mighty Pirates?
Yes, I've not finished, but I've started. I've watched tape on him. He's good. He's really good. Now, the injury obviously is devastating, but you want to talk about height, weight, speed type of combo, like the athleticism. That he's gonna, if he was healthy, I'd be really interested to see. That would be the guy that I would expect would destroy the Combine. Was going to blow it up.
I kind of feel like though that everybody's talking about Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if Will Johnson runs like high 4.4s, maybe 4.5.
Sure.
And that, I don't know. I mean, but Reville, East Carolina, I think I'm saying his name right. There's a lot of these names I got to learn the right way to say. But I really, really like that kid. I really like that kid. Dr. Cooper, the Cowboys team doctor, did the surgery on him. So the kid will probably be as good as new, but still, that's something you're going to have to deal with. He could have very well been maybe a top 12 player taken. Now maybe he's near towards maybe in the 20s, 25, 26, right where Terrion Arnold was taken by the Lions. Maybe that's kind of where he would be.
Really good player. The injury is obviously unfortunate. All right, let's talk some Cowboys. You are listening to the Love the Star podcast, the Love the Stars and Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, we will have some time. We got the Cincinnati Bengals on Monday, so we've got some look ahead to do. And I definitely wanted to dive into some of that. I wanted to tackle a broader question to open this segment, though, about the Cowboys, because this is something that came up in the wake of the Giants game. And I had a lot of people fighting with me on this, and I don't know where you come down on this necessarily. I'm not saying this player is an all-pro.
Mm-hmm.
But what I am saying is I think Rico Dowdle has proven he can be a consistent starting running back in the NFL if he's healthy. And I had a lot of people saying, quit overreacting. It's just the Giants. And here's where I come down on looking at this. The Giants game is obviously his best performance of the season, but my thing is that when you look at his tape, when you see what he's done against Pittsburgh and Atlanta and how he's played against Philadelphia and all these different teams, do I see a lot of, long speed? No, I don't. Do I see highlight reel spin moves and hurdles and freaky athleticism? No, I don't. But here's what I have on my notes on him all year this year. Quickness, body control, balance, instincts, vision. The way he sees a hole developing, makes a quick, decisive cut, maintains his balance through small areas. That's all NFL level traits. And I think what you're seeing is a tough physical. He's one of these few runners, Brian, that consistently will pick up more yardage between the tackles than outside. A lot of today's NFL is, find that soft corner, get to the edge, attack him. He doesn't have that speed to the outside. But what he does have is an ability to see the hole develop on the interior and make a cut and keep his balance and not get knocked over and fight for extra yardage. I think, again, not an all-pro. If you have an ability to upgrade, you probably take that opportunity. But if you're saying, I have to go into next year with Rico Dowdle starting and I've upgraded other positions, I don't feel terrible about that as long as he's healthy. I think Rico Dowdle has shown he's a starting caliber running back.
I'd just like to see somebody a commitment to handing him the football. That's what I want to see.
We got on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I mean, how about this? The poor guy plays 2 games in 5 days and has over 200 yards rushing if you combine the 2 days, So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we're at. There needed to be a commitment with him running the football. They've done you could say the strength of the Giants, I felt like, was their defensive line. Mission accomplished against that crew. The Commanders, I don't think the Commanders have a bad defense. I really don't. So mission accomplished with the way that they were able to run the ball against them. It just needed to be the commitment. Look at the games that they've had success and they've won. The Pittsburgh game you mentioned, the Commanders game, the Giants game. Commitment, I am all for Rico Dowdle coming back and being a ball carrier for you. But I also need a commitment whether it's Mike McCarthy or somebody else. I need a commitment that man, that whole Mike McCarthy thing, that's a whole nother thing for another day too, maybe. I don't know. But, I'm in that camp of I'm okay with Mike McCarthy coming back if he's not the primary play caller. I am okay with that. I'm not okay with Mike McCarthy coming back and being the primary play caller. And if Jerry Jones offers him the opportunity to come back, but with the caveat of you're not the primary play caller, and he says no, then you can go look for work elsewhere is where I'm at there.
And it's I feel like they waited too long.
But that affects Rico Dowdle. To me, that affects Rico Dowdle.
Now Dowdle, I think when the story of Mike McCarthy is done, I think one of the things we're going to hear is that Mike McCarthy never wanted Zeke back. I think is what we're going to hear. And
does he think that's what Dak was alluding to?
Could be.
Why would Dak throw Zeke under the bus?
I'll say this. Here's how I took it. When I heard those comments, which for those that don't know, Dak Prescott gave an interview to Jory Epstein, fantastic reporter over at Yahoo Sports, somebody that he has a lot of respect for over there. And he had said that he basically endorsed the idea of Mike McCarthy coming back and said that I'd like to see him come back on his terms or to coach this thing on his terms. And he said, so to speak, or had used some sort of language like that. And a lot of people were trying to figure out what does on his terms mean. Here's how I took it. We debated this on 105 through the Fan this morning. The way that I took it was not like you coach different when you're coaching for your job. You know what I mean? Like you make decisions that I think are probably different when you're on a prove it lame duck season as opposed to I'm here for the next 4 years. Mike McCarthy's probably making decisions now that if he was faced with them in 2021 with a good football team and 4 years ahead of him, he probably does things a little differently. Maybe he has more patience with certain offensive linemen. Maybe he decides, hey, you know what? I want us to try some different things in the passing game. He took risks with Tyler Smith that he's not taking with Tyler Guyton. Maybe because it feels like I can't jeopardize something bad happening because of a rookie while I'm on my last year. That's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I took it to mean sort of that, but it's definitely an interesting way to talk about it, the way to describe it. And I don't know if it sounds so much like a politician answer like I would normally expect from Dak, but maybe
I completely thought that's what it was.
It very well could be.
This is where I got to give Dak Prescott credit. Okay, Dak knows how to play this game. Being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys has made him very savvy for how to play this game. The arrows he takes on a weekly basis from the fan base, from the media, from national media, it's made him hardened, but it's also made him very resilient in the way that he knows how he has to answer questions. This, to me, I felt was an opportunity for him because he's no longer in that spotlight. You can't go up and ask him a question on a Thursday afternoon, outside the Cowboys locker room like you used to.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where he said, hey, Jory, let's have a little chat here, okay? I want to tell you what I think about this. I think Dak Prescott is outstanding at playing this game.
Sure.
I admire him for the way he plays this game. He's able to kind of say
more though, didn't it? Didn't it feel like a little more than necessary from a politician?
I think that he wants to be on the right side of. He knows how this thing is probably going to end.
So he doesn't want to just embarrass somebody on the way down.
Exactly.
Like my endorsement isn't going to change the outcome. So might as well be.
I will fall on the sword like he does all the time.
And be
That's what
generous.
Dak Prescott does. Yeah.
Be generous to a guy who's on his way out.
Exactly. Does not. Dak does not want that blood on his hands. Because there have been times. When we talk about McCarthy and Dak, a lot of times, what have we talked about? Mainly the fact that the offense was awful when Mike was calling it last year, and Dak and CD and those guys had to step in. Exactly.
Tension has existed there more than that locker room has acknowledged.
Dak does not want Mike McCarthy to walk out of here feeling like that he was the reason why. And
sure.
I give Dak credit. If that's just my 2 cents.
And I will say this. I do think regardless of anything, even if that's a political answer, I think their relationship has improved over time. And I don't think it was always great early. I think there was tension early. And I think you can go back to last spring. Go to last spring and Dak standing up there and going, "Hey, reporters ask him, Mike said that they talked about doing this and that with your interceptions," and Dak goes, "Yeah, I don't know if that conversation went exactly the way he relayed it to you guys." Yeah. Dak doesn't talk like that unless but I do think they've gotten to a point where they're good. I think they're good, but
do you think Dak took a shot at the front office?
No, like I said, I think Dak was talking about when he said on his terms, he was talking about being able to operate the way a coach would with security.
Okay, this is where I have a theory real quick.
Mm-hmm.
My theory is maybe Mike McCarthy and Dak, and you talk about this relationship that they have that's improved, and I'll acknowledge that. Do you think that Mike McCarthy told Dak Prescott, "Listen, I tried to bring back Joe Philbin, didn't work out here. Tried to bring back this guy, tried to do this, tried to do that." Do you think that he's talked to Dak about this and Dak is just kind of relaying that Mike's thoughts from not being able to bring back some of the coaches that he wanted and losing some guys in a way that, and on his terms, you know what I'm saying? Like,
maybe
you're in the last year of your deal and you don't get to coach with the coaches you want to coach with.
Yeah, that's possible. That could be the way he's talking about it. Like I said, it was very broad and open-ended, and that's probably the way Dak intended it. Was to be a little broad and open-ended because he said on his terms, so to speak, or I'll say it that way. Like he was choosing a word that I think or terms that were a little vague and a little general, and so but that's probably on purpose.
This is where if I'm Jory and I respect the hell out of her, that's where the follow-up needed to be. Could you explain that? Could you explain on his terms, please?
Yeah, and maybe, and again, maybe, and I like I said, I respect the hell out of Jory too, and I think Jory too. I think Jory handles interviews really, really well, and I'm guessing Jory knew that's how. Like, I'm guessing Jory
knew her purpose.
Well, not just that. Dak said it that way, and Dak clearly. Like, I think she knows where's the pressure point, and is that one where is it respectful?
But that's a follow-up, isn't it? Isn't there a follow-up?
I get it. I guess I view it this way. Is that a follow-up in the context of the interview that he was doing? Like, he was doing a couple different interviews yesterday for some sort of
but you just don't say that and leave everybody wondering why.
I'll say this, and I'm not speaking for Jory at all. But I think Jory's also savvy enough to realize. Good. I think Jory's also savvy enough to realize.
Don't press him.
That's a follow-up question to ask as soon as the recording's cut.
All right.
Hey, Dak, so tell me what it would, and then that way Dak doesn't have to say
I think she already knows the answer.
That's also possible.
Yeah, I think she knows the answer. I think she knows the answer to her
question. Hasn't Jerry always had the answer? Never ask a question to, or never ask a question to something you don't already know the answer to?
There's an old show called Perry Mason. He was a lawyer. Perry Mason never asked a question he didn't already know the answer to.
Yeah. So, I mean, she probably already just knows the answer.
I would have loved her to follow up myself.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I also get where Jory may have just thought not necessary. And so I can totally see it that way too.
Live to fight another day.
Yeah, or just like I said, maybe it's just a little more like, hey, I can talk to Dak about this on my own.
Yeah.
I don't need to give this to everybody else yet. That kind of thought. That's just my own thought. I'm not speaking for Jory at all. I think she does a great job.
Does a great job. I just wish she would have followed up on that one.
All right, Brian, before we get over to and we'll preview Bengals a little bit more moving forward, but before we get to the mailbag really quickly, biggest thing that stands out to me, just as a quick teaser preview before we get into Bengals later in the week, Joe Burrow's playing out of his mind, and this Bengals team is doing nothing. Can you think of a time, Brian, where if I told you your team, how insane would you feel as a personnel guy if I told you, Brian, you're going to have the NFL's leading touchdown passer, the NFL's leading receiver, the NFL's leading sack artist, and you're going to be 4-8? You would have to be just pulling whatever's left of your hair out, Brian.
Yeah, no, but let me tell you this though. The Cowboys' path to victory, actually, the Bengals play into their hands when it comes to their offense. And I say this I don't expect the Bengals to run the football against you. I really, really don't.
Need to.
I do expect them to drop back and throw the football because that's how the Bengals score a lot of points. Now, you're in trouble on your end because you don't generate a lot of points.
Yeah.
But hey, Cooper Rush is 1-0 versus Joe Burrow in games. But what happens is where this Bengals offense has some deficiencies, it's pass protection. It really is. The right side of their offensive line gives up pressures. They give up sacks. They got a rookie over there in Mims. Kappa, the right guard, has given up pressures. We've seen better play from Oso Digizua. We've seen better play from Micah Parsons playing as a primary rusher, maybe as a 3 technique. The Bengals have struggled with pressure. They've struggled with blitzes. Sat down and watched every sack that they gave up. And the one common element is that their linemen at times just can't win one-on-one. And Burrow will pull the ball down. When he's not horsing it down the field to Jamar Chase, well, he's there's other weapons there, don't get me wrong. But this plays into Dallas's hands. Dallas does not have to worry about an elite running game. What they need to worry about is playing cover 2 and making sure that they've got Jamar Chase bracketed. Now, the last time these two teams met, 1 reception, I think, for 6 yards and 2 targets for Chase versus Diggs.
Diggs did a great job.
Can Diggs play this week? Is one of Diggs' better games.
That was the big wrap-up
third down
tackle
stop,
on third down.
Fourth down stop. I mean, that was a big game for him. So this game for the Cowboys is really going to have to, once again, be put into the lap of their defense. Can they create enough pressure? Can they blitz? Can Mike Zimmer dial some things up that affects Joe Burrow in this football game and take advantage of Alex Kappa and Amarius Mims and guys like that?
I think that's a good way to look at it, and we'll dive in a little bit more. In fact, that'll be a good project. I think I'll do that this week, too. I'm going to go back. We should go back, watch or at least I will. I'll go back and watch the 22 game against Cincinnati, see defensively some of the things they did that maybe frustrated Burrow a little bit that day, because you held
pressure
Cincinnati in a lot of check.
Yeah, that was week 2, I believe, and they had a situation where the week before they'd lost an overtime game to Pittsburgh where I think they messed around and missed field goals and stuff.
Yeah, they started 0-2 that year. Yep.
Yeah.
But
Burrow was under a lot of pressure that game.
Yep,
a lot of pressure.
And Noah Brown was playing all world that day. You are listening to the Love the Star podcast, the Love the Stars and Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, it is now time for the Dean Julia Love the Star mailbag, where we turn things over to our dear sweet listeners, get their thoughts, their comments, their questions. Let's go. First one here. This is good. This is a 3-parter because it'll be really quick. It's from Matt Holleran, and Matt has a couple true or false questions for us here, Brian, okay? Number 1, Dallas's 2025 head coach will be a former Super Bowl champion. True or false?
False.
Ooh.
Now, a Super Bowl champion in a way of like, okay, what if it's Mike Vrabel?
I was going to say Vrabel's a technicality because he won one as a player.
Then it's true.
I agree with you. I think Vrabel's the favorite, but I will say if you're telling me I can include, if you're just saying as a head coach, I'll say false, but I think the names we're talking about are Vrabel, Belichick, or maybe run it back with McCarthy for a 1% chance kind of thing. Yeah. That's how I look at it. Next one here. Rico Dowdle will be the Cowboys starting running back week 1, 2025.
True.
I'm going to say false. Free agent. I think he's going to have some opportunity, and the Cowboys will say, we'll find somebody to, even though they like him, we'll find somebody to replace, is what I think. And then the third one here, 2 of the following players will still be on the roster this season, or next season. Osa Odigizua, Zach Martin, Jordan Lewis, DeMarcus Lawrence, Brandon Cooks.
2 of them will be?
Yeah, I'm going to say false.
Yeah.
Which is disappointing.
If I had to handicap them, I would say give me Jordan Lewis as number 1 on that list.
If you're telling me I get to keep 2 and I get to pick the 2, I'm picking Jordan Lewis and Osa.
I think that's where I would go too. Yeah.
Osa's been playing, so this is the reverse for Osa. Osa for years.
By the way, circle back. You don't think they're going to bring back? You don't think they're going to bring back a Dowdle?
I just if I've got to lean one way, I think it's possible. I'm not ruling it out. I'm just thinking free agent might have some better opportunity out there for him.
I see what you're doing. All right.
So that's just kind of how I'm looking at it. All right. Next question here from Chris Hodnett. Santa's coming soon. Hope you kids are getting your wish lists out to Santa. Hopefully you haven't been too naughty. What's the best realistic gift he can leave under the tree for the 2025 Dallas Cowboys?
You got something?
Yeah, I got a few that I'm sitting here thinking of. I guess the best, most realistic gift he could leave under the tree for them next year would be health. Yeah. If they can just be healthier next year, that's a big problem for them this year was health. If you're telling me it's personnel, Ashton Genty probably. I haven't gotten all the way through the players, but I'd love to say Tetero and McMillan. I don't know that McMillan's going to get down past the top
I don't know
5.
if they get past you there, man. He is a hell of a football player, the wide receiver from Arizona. I'd love Genty. I've got to look at these other running backs, and I'm kind of hearing from like guys like Dane Berugler and people like that I really trust. This is one of the most unusually deep running back classes we've seen.
Oh, there's some depth into the next few days.
Okay. I would love for Santa to leave me a competent play caller or a creative play caller. How about that? Does that work?
I love it.
A creative play caller would be my wish for everybody.
Next question here from Marcus Mitchell. On a free play, defensive offsides, why in the world are we throwing deep to Jonathan Mingo and not CeeDee Lamb in the last game, Brian?
I think you just launch it for whoever's out there.
You just look and go, let me hit the prayer. Yeah. I'll say this. You know what? I'm going to give some credit, and I tweeted this play out. Jonathan Mingo was part of one of Dowdle's best
tough.
He did a great job getting to Thibodeau and chipping. If he doesn't get there, and he had to come down the line and get to Thibodeau and move him. Yeah. If he doesn't get there, that's blown up for a 4-yard loss. It was an 18-yard game.
Let me tell you what. You could be mad at Mingo all you want, but they no longer have a problem at edge with a receiver that'll block. And they've had problems with Tolbert. They've had problems with Brooks. They've had problems with CeeDee Lamb. You put that big Jonathan Mingo in there, and he's not afraid to go dig somebody out.
He'll fight his ass off. He fights, man.
He will.
So I respect that about him.
Maybe not for fourth round worth, but he will fight.
No, not probably not fourth round worth. But at the very least, I'll also say this. You know who's going to be really good for Jonathan Mingo, I think, because we hear a lot about this in general.
A competent play caller?
Well, there's that. Getting Brandon Cooks around him.
Yeah.
Getting a pro route runner around him like Cooks will be good. Cooks that's who, when Deuce Vaughn was starting to do some receiver stuff, that was the first person Brian Schottenheimer said, you need to go get in his ear. Go get around Brandon Cooks, listen to Brandon Cooks talk about the way he does things. Everybody speaks really highly of Cooks. I think Cooks could show Mingo some stuff. And then last one here, Brian, in our abbreviated mailbag as we wrap things up. This is from Tony Mango. He says, is Steele salvageable at right tackle, or do we need to draft one?
I think Steele really misses Joe Philbin, but I think he's played better with a healthier guard inside of him.
I thought he was great against the Giants. I thought he played great in the run game. Yeah, and I think you're right. You know what? That's my last question here for you. Has it gotten to the point of, because of so many health issues, the Cowboys would be better served playing without Zach Martin the rest of the year?
I see now, yeah, and I asked Mark Schlereth that question, and how do you how do you get around the fact that you're in 2 games in 5 days? You've run the ball better. You've given up less pressures.
I'm starting Hoffman. That's what I would do. Hoffman or Bass. Your
that's
offensive
the
line's
problem
been
because
better.
this reminds me so much when you get these guys like you had Emmitt Smith and guys like that are near the end of their career and you don't play them. But if you do play them, your team's probably worse off. Martin's just not healthy. All right, let me ask you this, Bobby, before we get out of here.
Yep.
72% Zach Martin or 100% Brock Hoffman?
Brock Hoffman.
Wow.
Yeah, at this point.
I kind of don't disagree with you.
If we're talking about trying to win ball games and be competitive down the stretch, or just finding out what you have there for your offensive line next year, Hoffman. So
okay.
That's where I come down. All right, that does it for us here today on the Love the Star podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll have some more for you later this week.
You hated Martin like that. Man,
stop it! Do not put words in my mouth. You're sounding like the people.
Be sure you clip that, and tag Zach Martin at it.
Clip that, Brian. Yeah. For Brian Broaddus, I'm Bobby Bell. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you guys again later. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.